is being formed of thinking of this marker that way, the idea of substance. Contiguity, likewise, if things are adjacent to each other, we tend to associate them. Spatially adjacent, chronologically adjacent, and so we get ideas of spatial relationships and temporal relationships, therefore of a location in space and a location in time. Now notice these are particular locations, just like the marker is a particular substance, because the complex ideas that I get are not ideas of some abstract universals. They're ideas of particulars, you see. Not abstract general ideas, but ideas of particulars. And if I do get ideas of markers in general ideas, again, it's because of resemblance that it does it. Now, when he comes to the relationship of cause and effect, the principle of cause and effect is a principle of association, that is where the difficulty occurs. That's the problem he points up in section 4 of the inquiry. Because it turns out, as you try to describe empirically what we call cause-effect types of relationship, that all we can observe is constant conjunctions, uniform associations, but we never have any observation of the force that is exerted, of causal power, of what he calls causal connections. So that the uniformity of nature is an empirical generalization. But that A must cause B, it's a necessary cause of it, that's unknown empirically. So of these three principles of association, while they all work, inferences from the third to any necessary connections is invalid. Though psychologically, we come to believe that. And this is going to be the key for how we come to certain beliefs, like beliefs in material objects, external, belief in God, and so forth. Because we come to believe in cause-effect connections for which there is no empirical evidence, and for that matter, no a priori knowledge. So keep that in mind also then, the association of ideas. Now, that leads him in the third place with regards to Locke, that leads him to go one step further than Locke and formulate what has since become known as an empiricist criterion of meaning. An empiricist criterion of meaning. Now, he's not talking of a criterion of truth or of justified belief. He's talking simply of language, of what words mean, you see. And if we're talking about factual meaning, reference to something specific, naming something, describing something, then the criterion of meaning for an empiricist is going to be that the language must refer to some original, no, not original ideas of an empirical sort, but original impressions of an empirical sort. So look at page 291 in Kaufmann, 291, which is at the tail end of section 2 of the inquiry, the last couple of sentences, in fact, of section 2 of the inquiry. And notice what he says. Last 3 sentences. All impressions, that is, all sensations, either outward or inward. Outward sensations, inward sensations. He talks of the outer sense and the inner sense. Right? All impressions, all sensations, inward or outward, are strong and vivid. The limits between them are more exactly determined, nor is it easy to fall into any error or mistake with regards to them. When we entertain, therefore, any suspicion that a philosophical term is employed without meaning or idea, as is but too frequent, we need but inquire from what impression is that supposed idea derived. And if it be impossible to assign any impression, this will serve to confirm our suspicion. By bringing ideas into so clear a light, we may reasonably hope to remove all dispute that may arise concerning their nature and reality. Yeah. Do your ideas have any basis? Basis in experience or not? So what you try to do is to take a complex idea, analyze it into the simple ideas, and ask from what original impressions do these simple ideas come. And that's the acid criterion. Now, it's this empiricist criterion of meaning which he uses with such effectiveness when he talks of the idea of necessary connection. There's no original impression of necessary connection, so the idea has no meaning. When he's talking of a miracle, he takes it that the idea of a miracle is something unrelated to any original impression. Therefore, impossible to ascertain. The idea of anything abstract ideas, real universals, in the same situation again. This goes, it turns out, even for the concept of mind as a substance, as an entity. Of soul, you remember, as we were talking about it a bit last time. Because he looks at that, well, we have impressions of our own mental states, of our wishing and hoping and feeling. But where's the impression of mind substance, soul substance? It doesn't leave any impressions. So there is no empirical point of reference that's involved in talking that way. Now you might say, well, why didn't Berkeley see that? Or Locke? That matter Descartes. Well, Descartes had started by saying, no, we don't have any direct, clear and distinct idea of the mind, but we have a notion. A notion. a notion that it's there. So that when Descartes goes through his I think, therefore I exist, a thinking thing, the notion he has is of that continuing I that is the agent that's thinking, and I sort of catch me in the act when I say, I think, I exist, I got me, you see. And Locke and Berkeley follow that line of thought, but not so Hume. Not so Hume. What is the I, you see? If it's not I substance, well, what is it empirically? And this gets to the question of personal identity. And in the treatise, he has one chapter that deals with the notion of mind as substance. He has another chapter that deals with the concept of personal identity. And if we have no basis for affirming the existence of mind substance, then the question of personal identity has to be addressed. What do we know of personal identity? You see? And he says all that we know of personal identity is through memory. You know, search yourself. If you're looking for some empirical basis for talking about the I, what is the I? What is your I to you empirically? You know, Now, plainly, it's not body as such, because you are still you, even though you trim your fingernails and toenails, get your hair cut. Losing that much body doesn't affect you. And now we know you can get along with transplants, even heart transplants. And people are writing philosophical science fiction about whether you would be you if you had a brain transplant. You see? Yeah, there's all sorts of fascinating literature building around that. But as far as Hume is concerned, the body is irrelevant, because the body is it, not I. And you sense that if you see yourself in a photo, see yourself on a video. That's not the I that I know. I can objectify that. No, the I that I know is the inner I know through what they call reflection. The I that was the thinking thing on such an occasion, the feeling thing another occasion, the speaking thing on another occasion, the I that I experienced inwardly. You see. And so personal identity for Hume really consists in this whole strain of ideas and impressions, sensations and reflections, that in my memory I trace all the way back along complex streams of ideas and impressions that were mine. You see. So that he says in the final analysis that the self is like a theatre in which ideas appear and pass, one after the other, fleeting as they come and go. That's all there is to identity. Then he adds another sentence by way of qualification. Don't let this misunderstand you. The I is a stream of ideas, not the stage on which they stand. Not the building of a theatre, but just the appearances. So when it comes to the nature of the self, he's plainly only a phenomenalist, not a realist.